Well, I want to do another Confederate keepy hat video, just kind of informal, but I want to address something about the so-called upcoming modern Civil War. And you know, I'm going to tell you, this is so much BS you're hearing from all over the place. First off, you know, if there ever was, like, well, first off, which is real big danger is economic crisis. And if you look at really what's coming up, is probably a devaluation of the dollar because we're dependent upon the petrodollar system. Now, the reality of the situation is that I know even the leftists, quote unquote, are saying stuff, and you know, reality of the situation is, I think anybody that's like the quote unquote, whatever the hell you want to call those, conservatives or whatever the hell they are on the right, are not going to even do anything. What's going to happen is, I think it's going to be an economic crisis, and the cities are going to really suffer the most because people in those cities are very much dependent upon government. And even if the government makes all the great payments for like food assistance and subsidies for your rent, the problem is going to be is the devaluation of the dollar. Now, if you look at, you know, in the past with the war between the states, actually, probably the biggest Great Depression we ever had was started with the Panic of 1873. I know a lot of people thinking about the 1930s, but probably the Depression that was in the 1870s was probably worse. After the war between the states, the winter, which was the big railroads, not necessarily the North, the big railroads, money was on a big expansion, and they were taking everything they could from the federal treasuries with subsidies, land grants, and you name it, and, you know, sucking up all the money with Western expansion, with, of course, like General Sherman at the military point, going after the Western Plains Indians. And I mentioned this before, you know, the holy cause of the North. I shouldn't even say it's the North, because the North doesn't really all think the same. Nobody ever thinks all the same, no matter where the hell you are. But the money pretty much does think the same. They're like a magnet or a vacuum cleaner. They just look for money. And I know this stuff because I worked for a lot of these guys before, and I'm having fun with this Confederate stuff. I'm wearing my Cooter's Garage emblem on my t-shirt and stuff. I mean, kind of just having fun. But I want to explain something. You know, if there is some kind of conflict in the United States, because, man, I was listening to this thing somebody put out about what they were saying in Berkeley University. Well, they're going to have the foreign forces come in there and help us. I was like, yeah, you know what? If they had foreign forces come in here to help the so-called quote-unquote left, you ain't going to give a crap about your property, your rights, and your stuff, and where you live, and your homes, and your cars, and whatever else you got. They're going to take that too. Hey, it's power. They got the power. If they come in there and they got the power to take over, they're going to have the power to take over your stuff. It's going to be anybody that lives in the United States. Left, right, middle, whatever the hell they are. This politics stuff is a bunch of garbage, man. You got to think common sense, which is very short supply in universities. It's also very short supply in the government. Actually, the people I disrespect, I can't stand the most, are people, anybody who pretty much works for the government, because, you know what, if you take anybody in the private sector, I'll give you an idea about this. If you worked in the government, you know what's the hardest people to re-employ? Say, for instance, you know, they got laid off from the government. It's people from the government. I'm telling you, man. And they become, a lot of times, they become the worst employees, because you know why? My break time is at this time, and, you know, man, I used to freaking work to like 11, 12 o'clock at night, go take my lunch at my desk, you know, do stuff, take work at home, you know, but I wasn't working for the government. I was working for private enterprise, and I always considered the government the enemy. And I always worked for Jewish guys too, man. I like those guys, man. You guys are freaking over there in YouTube land. You freaking don't like that. But I tell you the truth, those entrepreneurs are keeping things, the sinews of America going at the middle class level more than you think. Not Soros. Now, I'm talking about, Soros is a bad guy, you know. I'm talking about the regular Jewish businessman. That's really I work for most of the time. And I got a lot of respect for those guys. You know, those kind of guys. And also, you think in the Confederacy, the brains behind the Confederacy was Judah Benjamin, right? You know, held a lot of different positions, right? Jewish. So, and they're also the biggest minority group in the freaking Confederacy, too. But anyway, I'm not Jewish, by the way, but, you know, and it's kind of a mixed bag. I mean, I'm wearing a Confederate keepy and also wear a Star of David. I've been wearing this forever, you know. But anyway, and you're going to say, oh, that means I'm this. That don't mean anything, you know. I'm just, whatever. I'm officially Roman Catholic, but whatever. But, you know, officially, you know. That's a racket unto itself. You go look at the Vatican. But anyway, I digress. You know, if you're looking at, you know, what's going on today, you know, there's a lot of talk back and forth, and you got all these politicians. But you know what? These politicians don't know how to pick up a wrench. They don't know how to freaking operate a tractor. I don't know how to operate a tractor. I know how to pick up a wrench and do stuff with that. I could fix the tractor probably really good. But, you know, I got some skills. I mean, I have skills in everything, but I got some skills. These eggheads that are talking in these universities, these politicians, they don't have any skills. It's a joke. And even a lot of these people, even on social media, don't even have any skills. You know that on my channel, at least I talk about and actually do some stuff. I got car fixing videos and, you know, how to repair fences and, you know, rebuild chainsaws and carburetors on a chainsaw. I mean, I got some stuff on there, you know. At least I know some stuff, right? I mean, I don't know everything, but I know some stuff. You know, even these people on YouTube that are commenting, they don't even know what the hell they're talking about. You know, in the practical world, when it comes down to it, you know, the left probably is going to have the biggest problem because, generally speaking, they're the big, high and mighty eggheads in the ivory towers with lots of money in the major cities, and you know, they keep the poorest population on their voting ranks because, you know, they dole out money to them, right? But, you know, they don't actually produce stuff. You know, if you're looking at all the major cities, they got to import food and water. I mean, even water comes through pipelines from the reservoirs. I mean, God, they're very vulnerable, man. I mean, somebody lives out on a farm, it's a small farmer, or even somebody lives in the suburbs, they can grow a garden, at least has a patch of land or something that can even put up, or can put up solar panels on the roof for power. They got a fighting chance. People in the city, woo, that's where most of the so-called left, quote-unquote, is at. And I don't like getting involved in this politics garbage because, you know, usually anything, when it comes down to something bad, you know, it's over money. The war between the states, the war for Southern independence, the war for Southern independence was breaking away from the money racket that was going on, you know. And actually, you could see after the war for Southern independence, what happened. The big winners, which were the big railroads and the big money, they had a big expansion from 1868 to 1873. They built 33,000 miles of railroads, and you know, there was a big speculative boom in the railroads due to that fact too, because, you know, the money was coming from the government with subsidies, land grants, and, you know, they're stealing all the land for free from the Plains Indians, which, you know, Sheridan and Sherman and the Union ranks all going after the American Indians and Western Plains native peoples, whatever you want to call them. And, you know, after the boom, actually, the panic started in 1873, so what they did, they demonetized silver. You know, like, that was a big problem for the miners because it turned out that that made silver worth a lot less money. They demonetized silver, and no longer silver was coinage to make payments with, and that actually led to a depression that was even worse, or maybe worse, or about as bad, or just as bad as the depression in the 1930s. Now, nobody remembers that stuff because it was too far away, but a lot of it was started by speculation from the railroads, which actually, what the hell, the war between the states start. And from the railroads, man, their boy was Abe Lincoln, right? He was the big attorney for them. He used to be shuttered around on all the railroads and all that type of stuff. And by the way, I got the old Georgia state flag behind me. You know, I'm trying to talk my, I don't really work for the CPA firm too much anymore. You know, I work there, I do work there, but I mean, I don't really work there like I was. I kind of like going there off and on. But I'm trying to talk them to go up to the outskirts of Atlanta and live far enough away from Atlanta where you're in the country, and, you know, have an office in the suburbs of Atlanta and set up a couple of Atlanta old Georgia state flags out there. You know, put a motto out there. You know, fighting the carpetbaggers and scalawags that coming down that, in occupied Atlanta or something like that. You know, I've always been, I tell you the truth, you know, even though I was in with the money people, I was always in with free enterprise all the way. Boy, I can't stand government, man. Boo. I mean, a little bit, yeah. I mean, I'm against, like, you know, toxic waste dumping in the middle of the farmland or something like that. I think there should be definitely a government rule against that and fines for that. But, you know, I'm against excessive government regulations. Are ridiculous, man. I mean, I'm like, good. I'm always on the side of free enterprise. You know, I'm pro moonshiner and everything else, right? Although I don't make any moonshine, but you know, I want to learn that. But I'm going to tell you this: that this talk about a future civil war is really ludicrous. If there is something like that, it's not going to be a quote-unquote civil war. It's going to be these idiot leftists going to be bringing in people that from foreign countries that think that they're going to be on their side because ideologically they're on their side, and they're going to say, "Yeah, we're going to help you out." And you know what they're going to do? They're going to steal from all of us. They're gonna rip. They're gonna take from the leftists, the rightists, the middle road, the moderates, the whatever the hell you write. They just, if there's something there, if they bring that stuff in and they got the power, they're gonna take whatever you got. Dummy, freaking Berkeley University professor, dull. You don't get it. You know, I was looking at some of this stuff. This guy, you know, it was from a female that put out a video that actually, was saying what this professor in Berkeley said, and I was like, man, you gotta be kidding me, man. You know, worry about your own freaking stuff. Don't worry about what the left's doing, the right's doing. Just worry about your own situation, man. I mean, you know, this politics garbage is stupid. It really is. It's only when somebody's trying to take the stuff that you earned for them, that you know, that don't belong to them, then you got a problem, right? You got to be able to defend yourself. But, you know, just getting into some kind of crazy conflict because I disagree with you, and you know, my attitude on the government is, man, get lost. We don't need that much government. What the hell? I mean, for crying out loud. I mean, yeah, you got to have red lights and green lights on the streets, you know, on the intersections or stuff like that, but and a couple things, but you don't really need that much government. Yeah, you got to have maybe air traffic controllers so the planes don't crash into each other. Sure, but you know, we got a lot of stuff out there that's really stupid. And the more we argue with each other, the more government we get, the more rules we get. Who needs that garbage? You know, the Civil War shit is stupid. I mean, sorry, you know, but it is. It's dumb. You know, stored, hide, in transit. That's what that means. By the way, I'm just going to also tell you that, you know, every time the money scams everybody very, very well. And I'm not talking about wealth that's in the millions. When you get really high up there, they're pretty bad. But even them, they're not all that bad. I don't think they're all that bad. I mean, I don't think Trump is all that bad. I mean, like, sometimes they dissed him sometimes. I mean, I'm not like, oh, Trump, I love you. You're such a great leader. We got Trump. Oh, God. That's the wrong thinking. You got too much power to one guy, man. That's what this, you know, the war between the states was about. It's getting rid of centralized power, especially the power to overtax and overspend. But, you know, when you're talking about political ideologies, it's, you know, it's like, the only time people are going to fight, I guess, you know, if the government comes down with a really heavy hand, it don't matter who the hell it is, because I really don't like conservatives, too, a lot of times. I mean, yeah, conservatives usually are weasels, though. They're like worms. They're afraid of freaking, the conservative. You know, sometimes they're not that great. I would actually say, politically, I'm more reactionary. I don't even consider myself conservative. You know, I'm the old school to the max. And very, like, virtually non-existent government practically, man. But, you know, it's like, I'm not against anybody doing whatever the hell they want to do, as long as you ain't infringing on anybody else's rights. That's where you get into, well, you get into a conflict. It could be on an individual basis, but if there's anything like major conflict in the United States, I'm going to say it's being pushed by the major media, and also the alternative media is too stupid to are buying into all this bullshit. I'm not buying into it. If the left people get like foreign forces in this country and they think they're going to help them, yeah, that could be a major conflict, but then that's not a civil war. That's an invasion, okay? That's different. And the left would be stupid for doing that because those guys are going to steal from them. They're not going to steal from, just the right. They're going to steal from everybody that lives over here in the United States. So that's stupid. But that's how some people on the left think. But the conservatives don't think too smart too, because they're like, oh, I'm for law and order and the police and the military. I got news for you. The police and the military aren't necessarily all walk squeaky clean and perfect all the time. They do a lot of stupid things too. Could you imagine? It always gets me too. Sometimes I see these quote-unquote good cops talking about the Second Amendment. You know what? And they're pro-Second Amendment. I'm saying, that's great. But you know what? Say there was no Second Amendment. What would you be doing then? I think, if there was no Second Amendment, and there was no law that was even at the highest constitutional level, I still say you should own this stuff. Aha. You know what I mean? I'll argue for it right there too. But then, that doesn't mean you go use it on somebody really bad. It's for defending the fruits of your own labor, right? That's what it's for. But, that's not defending the fruits of your own labor, and what you produced is not civil war. That's common sense. So anyway, but there's been a lot of stuff that's gone on in the past. If you really examine it, you know what? You really can't find the information out on Wikipedia. They kind of tone it down a lot. Sometimes they put videos out with Wikipedia in there because it's very toned down and it makes it more like, not politically sensitive like it could be. Too politically sensitive for YouTube. Sometimes you use Wikipedia as an information source. But even Wikipedia as an information source, if you look up, the Panic of 1873, the demonetization of silver coinage, where they stopped accepting silver coinage as payment of debts, and they did the greenbacks, and that thus devalued silver. It was a banker's ploy, right? That was all part of the Panic of 1873, which lasted for all the 1870s. And what preceded that was the high speculation in the railroads. The speculation in the railroads was fueled by, once the railroads won the war, that's really what it was. The North didn't win the war. The railroads and the big money won the war. That's when the railroads said, okay, we got the green light to all the federal subsidies and land grants, and we need more land to go west. And, they started wiping out the American Plains Indians so they can get their railroads through there. With, Sherman, when Tecumseh Sherman wiped out, Atlanta and all that. He's the one that wiped out the American Plains Indians. Of course, nobody thinks of the Southerners, the American Southerners, in the same boat as the American Plains Indians, but they really were in the same boat. One different times though. But that led to like a lot of fueling of the railroads through government subsidies, and of course they bled the government dry. Which they already bled the government dry even before 1860, the railroads did. And, after they won the war, which is the war between the states, the railroads won that war, they bled the government dry again, but there was also, since there was so much activity going on, 33,000 miles of railroads track being built from the time of 1868 to 1873, that a lot of people just poured their money into it, sort of like the real estate boom they had in the early 2000s in the United States. And, eventually booms go bust. When they went bust, they demonetized silver and issued greenbacks to help, steal your wealth, basically. Sort of like what FDR did with, telling people it's turning gold for 20 bucks an ounce and revaluing at 35. They might do something like that again. Maybe exchange dollars for new dollars or some garbage. I don't know, maybe. That could be. I don't know. But that's not civil war. That's called you getting ripped off. And that's going to cause social and civil tensions. But there's not going to be a, most people realize, It's the big guys on the top ripping everybody else off. That's really what the hell it is. That's always what it's been. That's what people got to realize. But if they bring in people from the outside, well, that's what they did in the North. They actually brought people in from the outside to go kill Americans down south that have been there forever. Like a matter of fact, my lineage goes all the way back to the American Revolution in South Carolina. I know I got 4 or 5, definitely 4, documented in the Sons of the American Revolution and Daughters of the American Revolution that are direct grandfathers or 5th and 6th great grandfathers that fought for the American Revolution in South Carolina. A few generations later, they're fighting for the Confederacy for the same reasons, self-determination, the reason, not being taxed to death for some big guys up north can have all the money, which is the railroads. So, the money powers brought in and paid for foreigners to come down south and kill these Americans. That could be, but that's not going to help. That's not really a civil war. That's an invasion. Well, that's what it was in the South. But maybe this time, if there's ever something like that, the invasion will be north, south, and everywhere. And the Berkeley University leftists are very gullible in thinking that these people are going to help them. No, they won't. They'll tell you they're going to help you, but you know what? They're going to want your Mercedes car and your $1 million home that you have over there in the beachfront property in California someplace or up in the hills, and that's what eventually it's going to happen. You're going to lose your stuff too, man. So that's not exactly a civil war, and I guess the motto of this whole damn thing, this whole video is, we better all work together and see the scam that's going on, because his left versus right shit is stupid. It really is. I'm not like super well, in some ways I'm reactionary. I believe in family values and all that stuff, really hardcore. But it's not. I mean, the conservatives are very much pro-U.S. military and police, and I'm like, what do you need all that stuff for? I'm not really pro. Anti-drug. I mean, if you want to screw up your body and mess it up, what can I do about that? I mean, you can get a can of glue or something and sniff it, for crying out loud. I mean, what can I do about that? That's individual choice. I mean, I recommend you don't do that, but I don't know. I'm not that. I don't actually agree with I don't know. Some people would call me libertarian, but I don't know. I think the libertarians are not really cool either. But I'm not really anything politically. I'm very freedom loving. People do whatever the hell they want as long as you're not screwing somebody else over. What the hell's your problem? What's the problem? No problem. So anyway, over and out. Just want to present this and food for thought, because there's been a lot of videos on the internet. Maybe they're feeding me this crap, and I'm thinking, well, I don't even watch all of them. I kind of skip around them. I was saying to myself, maybe, I guess since Maxine Waters talked some garbage, and there's been stuff going on talking, but these people, most of these people that are talking this crap, they live in a cloud, man. I mean, a politician or an actor or something, they don't do nothing. I mean, yeah, they do stuff, but I mean, they don't produce the essentials for life, like food, water, clothing, electricity, power, transportation. They don't do that. Something really bad happened. I'd like to know what the hell they're going to do. Well, I don't really care. I know what I'm going to do. Anyway, over and out, and long enough on that. I got to do some other stuff. I got to get that carburetor on that El Camino. Over and out.